Welcome once again to Rock You Like a Hurricane Rana. My name's Simon Tackler. Joining me is Owen Jones. How's it going?
I'm good, man. How are you? We are back in the Rana studios. We've taken a break the past few weeks to do a bit of a home studio with our guests.
Yeah.
But we are back on a home turf.
We're a very friendly show. When we have guests, we invite them into an actual home.
Yeah, into my kitchen, and we give them party pies and sausage rolls and whatnot, like we did with Brooksy.
Yeah. But when it's us, back in the official Rana studios.
Absolutely.
And today's episode is a special one. We're not interviewing anyone. We're not looking at a band in particular. We're looking at WWE's most metal brand, and that's NXT.
Hell yeah.
We've mentioned it a few times just in conversations on
passing,
the show
yeah.
that NXT has really changed the way the WWE treats heavy music. It's sort of changed the presentation.
Yeah.
They're no longer relying on bands like, Saliva and Rev Theory
And Limp Bizkit.
and Downstate, whoever they are.
Yeah.
I feel like they're actually on trend now with the bands they choose for the pay-per-views, for the theme songs.
And the way like those bands that they choose actually influence their original songs that they write for wrestlers.
Exactly. We've got an update there, in terms of the style.
For a while, it was a lot of the stuff that was written for them was just kind of like your new metal and your really average hip hop beats and stuff. But now it's like they actually like put thought into like, oh, these heavy bands are relevant. Let's just kind of take what they're doing, and just like give it to this wrestler and give it to that wrestler. So
yeah. And I think it's an interesting time to do this show too, because WWE recently let go Jim Johnston, who was in charge of their music for, 30
years, yeah.
And I feel like with the emergence of CFOs doing their themes, sort of the change in style of NXT and guys coming from NXT to the main roster, it really is the changing of the guard now in terms of the musical style of the WWE, particularly their heavy music.
Yeah, and it's just more current, like, because Jim Johnston was kind of like writing pretty much what he wrote for Motorhead when they did their stuff for Triple H. It's kind of like just your traditional heavy metal. And then, CFOs are like kind of just going the more obscure metal or more like metalcore, hardcore, death metal. It's like gent kind of vibe.
Yeah, it's more varied. Not everyone comes out to the same style of music because seriously, Randy Orton, Dolph Ziggler, The Miz, they all have a similar sound of their music. I feel
it's
that's
probably the same band, isn't it?
Probably, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
So we're going to go into a bit of the history of NXT's awesome music choices. If you've forgotten where those songs fit in terms of the Takeover events, because that's where a lot of the cool music has been placed.
Yeah.
We're going to sort of go through those events too and relive the glory years of NXT. And
Absolutely.
I think the only place you can start is with NXT's first champion. He's arguably one of the most metal WWE superstars there is.
We've seen videos of him at concerts like headbanging and moshing, so he's a bit of it's someone I'd personally like to meet. I'm actually wearing his shirt today. But Seth Rollins, like the guy's a metal machine. Like he's always talking like on his Instagram and on his on his Spotify and stuff. It's always like this band. Always heavy bands. Heaps into like his like mid 2000s metalcore.
Yeah, he loves the metalcore.
Yeah, and it's like, and that shows like, so like in late Ring of Honor, and then when he transitioned into FCW before it turned into NXT, he used a song called Battle On by A War of Ages, which may sound familiar to a lot of our listeners, because it's, if you're into like your indie stuff, I'm pretty sure he did use it for his last Ring of Honor run, yeah. But it definitely is like that little like tapping part at the start sounds pretty familiar for anyone anyway. So
it's such a cool intro though. This feels like
it was written to be an entrance song.
Heroic, kick-ass babyface music.
Ooh, yeah.
Modern dude.
Yeah,
I feel like it would be so good if Rollins still used something like this. I've said it many times. I'm not a fan of his current thing. Even when I got a chance to interview him earlier this year at Mania, I sort of asked the question without flat out saying it. I was like, if you could get a metal band to redo your song, what would it be? And I feel like he danced around the question by being like, yeah, I really love my theme song, but if I could choose, it would be Parkway or something like that,
Yeah.
you know?
But yeah, so that was a song that he used in FCW. So if you did watch FCW, you would have seen that a little bit. And then moving on into his first ever NXT song. It was called Flesh It Out by a band called Blues Saraceno, or Saraceno, however you want to pronounce it. And again, as soon as you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, it's Seth Rollins, because it's just like riffy. It's got that new metal build up, which I like.
Yeah, not as much of like, the hardcore vibe of the other song or the metalcore
Now,
vibe.
I'm not going to lie, I didn't really watch much NXT at the start, so I don't really remember this song too much until I listened to it. I'm like, oh yeah, it sounds familiar.
So this was Seth Rollins in his little tight...
In his tight little... Yeah, those... Oof.
Come out with his blonde streak and do his hardcore dancing at the top of the stage. And it wasn't the typical NXT crowd. I feel like it was just dudes from Full Sail University checking out this wrestling show.
Yeah.
And they're probably thinking, I don't know what's happening here.
Yeah, this guy has like some sort of like fit or something on stage.
Yeah, I like that he did it. But yeah, definitely without the knowledge of the crowd, it sort of fell flat a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
I think he could bring it back now. I think that would be sort of out of the blue. But yeah, it's interesting that as his character has progressed and sort of been, I don't know, like simplified in the way he presents himself. He doesn't wear the colourful, band T-shirts. He would always wear a band shirt as well.
Yeah, I do remember that, yeah.
Like a Day to Remember or, like one of those bands, very bright and colourful. He had the blonde streak. Now he's sort of like going for the simple look. It's all black hair.
Well, I guess he's kind of like going for many people his age who listen to that music, they're kind of like, because I have a lot of friends his age who listen to like the mid-thousands metalcore, they just wear black these days. It's just like, they're the guys that stand at the back of the room at a show with their arms crossed and just like do the head nod kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what he'd be doing now.
I felt that's what, on that a podcast I heard of him on that Jericho podcast, he was like, I usually just stand at the back. I just stand at the back of the show and just bob my head, but like sometimes the music gets the best of you. That's what I like about this kind of music, because it does like, sometimes I'll be like standing at the back of the show going, yeah, cool, and then others I'll be at the front going, fuck yeah, this is so much fun. Yeah,
you can try and fight it and be like, nah, I'm just going to play it cool tonight and just relax and enjoy the show, and then 10 seconds later you're fly kicking some dudes.
Me every day of the week.
And moving on from Seth Rollins, he sort of left his mark, with the presentation, that sort of kicked things off for NXT with the changing of the guards in terms of the music. And I felt like that sort of influence thing by the time we got to what people would consider the peak of NXT. Finn Balor's the champ, takeovers are starting to happen.
Sasha Banks is the women's champion at the time. And so when we were doing some research for this, like the first takeover to actually have an official theme was actually the fifth takeover in like overall, which was Takeover Unstoppable. And obviously the theme song for that was Unstoppable by a band called Motionless in White. Now, that's the band that I actually quite enjoy. Their first album is really, really good. If you want to listen to their first album, and their second album, like album Creatures, is really good, like perfect. And this is where they kind of go more of industrial route on this album here. More of a Manson kind of vibe that they went for on this album. But it's like, I remember when because this is when I really started watching NXT religiously, because and if you don't remember, the main event of this pay-per-view was the Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn, when it ended in a no contest. It was that was at the peak of this feud. Yeah,
I think Zayn was injured at the time, so the match sort of wrapped up earlier than
that was when they benched him and he got his shoulder redone. But this show actually features still one of my favorite matches of all time, which is Sasha Banks versus Becky Lynch. And that's not just because I'm a Becky Lynch fanboy.
Yeah, and that's the fun thing about this. We can go through these matches too. That's a super underrated match.
Such an underrated women's match, because that was when everyone was doing Women's Revolution. That match is so good.
Yeah,
because there was times where I'm like, Becky Lynch never actually won the NXT Women's Championship. No. There was times that match, because I watched that live, I'm like, she's gonna win this. She's gonna straight up win this. But yeah, Such a good pay-per-view. Like, probably still one of my favorite NXT takeovers.
Yeah, they sort of worked hard at this time to win over the crowd. It wasn't what it was yet. You sort of had to earn the chance and earn the respect of the crowd. It wasn't that built-in expectation of like, oh, this is going to be the best show I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Becky Lynch came out of nowhere. It wasn't expected she'd have a match that great. They worked an old school match. I remember it was sort of all submissions.
Yeah, it was. Because that was when they were really playing on like the Sasha, like the bank statement was going to end you kind of thing. And then because at that point in time, the 4 horsewomen all have their own submission.
Yep.
That's what they were like really building on.
Yeah, a great event, and the song Unstoppable, pretty damn good.
Yeah, I don't mind it. It's a good, as I said, it's probably that album took me a while to warm into. It's probably the best song on the album, so they did choose the right song, and fittingly enough, it was the same title as their pay-per-view. So,
how convenient. I wonder if it was just a weird coincidence. They were like, is there a song called Unstoppable? They found that song, and then they were like, I like this new type of music.
Yeah, totally.
Let's do this now.
Yeah, and if on that card as well, it was Blake and Murphy when they actually did things on NXT TV. Unfortunately, that was when they had a really good feud with Enzo and Cass before they kind of got really stale.
Yeah, it was good stuff there though. Enzo and Cass, we all loved them. No one was sick of Enzo back then.
No, and that was
Murphy. What a great athlete.
Great athlete, great guy, according to our good friend Adam Brooks.
Maybe one day we'll have Buddy Murphy on the show.
We'll find it. Hey, I did see on his Instagram story the other week he posted he was listening to Killswitch Engage.
Really?
Yes.
Maybe he was doing that to sort of like give us a hint.
Yeah, like
how
get me
I
on the
wanna
show. Before we'd even launched.
Exactly. He knew. He heard.
He just knows. So yeah, moving on our little excursion through the NXT Takeover soundtracks. The next one that we thought was noteworthy was Takeover Respect, where they decided to have an entire show soundtracked by Bring Me the Horizon.
Yeah. This one was interesting because it's rare that the WWE ever does this sort of thing where they'll use a band for multiple songs. And for this takeover, they used 2 songs from Bring Me the Horizon's awesome album, That's the Spirit. They used Happy Song,
which is this one we're playing right now.
A cool song, and this is where the title of the album comes from.
Yeah.
And can I just say, this is one of my favorite albums of the past few years.
Really?
Yeah, it's interesting. Bring Me the Horizon, like 10 years ago, was a band that was like a punching bag. I would make fun of them all the time.
I'm the opposite. I'm an old school Bring Me guy, like, because it's just that's kind of music I listen to mainly.
Yep.
I can appreciate this, but also like they got played at Triple M, so it's not as if I'm going to appreciate them much anymore.
No. I will say the album of theirs that won me over though was There Is a Hell. Believe me, I've seen it. There's a Heaven. Let's get it.
Yeah.
I actually had to look at my phone to be able to say it properly because I always forget it. I don't think there's many metal bands who are on a hot streak of albums as Bring Me the Horizon.
Yeah.
That, and then
Suicide Season's a really good album.
That one I don't like as much. Though.
Really?
That's
Okay,
why I start from that. Sempiternal I think is great.
Yeah.
And a great twist on modern metal.
Yeah,
introducing the electro stuff. And then for this album, though, I think this is one of the best, like, it's definitely way poppier than their earlier stuff.
Yeah.
But I think this is one of the best pop-sounding metal albums.
Yeah.
Because for me, it balances on, like, not tipping over into being cheesy or a money grab on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, I get you.
It's still original. The songwriting's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other song on this that was used for Takeover Respect was probably... A lot of people know this song because it was used on like every sports cast like possible. Because I guess it's pretty like it's very much one of those heroic songs, and it was thrown.
Man.
And if you do remember this telecast as much as well as we do, there was because this was the amazing 30-minute Iron Woman match between Bayley and Sasha Banks, and the promo pack they used for this and they put together with this song was up there with like the Rock and Austin like type of promo pack for a match, I think.
I love this promo video. It was kind of old school too in that they treated it like a real sport.
Yeah.
Similar to the way they did the video for Bret and Shawn or Brock and Rock. You actually saw Bayley and Sasha training actually training in the performance center, doing
the
their
gym,
exercise,
doing their
in the
stuff,
gym.
yeah.
Then you saw the wrestling stuff. You mix that visual with this song, which, as you said, every sports broadcast uses this song because it just
This
gets you
chorus
amped
is
up.
sick.
Yeah, just if you haven't heard the full album, I can't recommend it enough. It's a great start. If you haven't heard the band too, maybe it's a good place to start so it doesn't scare you off like with their older stuff.
Yeah, before you transition to their older stuff, which was very like deathcore and the stuff that I'd prefer. But yeah, this stuff I can warm to. Not my favorite, but I can definitely get behind it. I can see why the WWE chose to use it.
Oh, it works perfect, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting too with that band too. I interviewed them years ago. I think
Really?
when they were promoting Sempiternal and they were playing, I think it might have been Soundwave that year.
Okay.
Remember like the roof caught on fire? I think it was in like maybe Sydney or Melbourne.
Yeah,
there was like
yeah.
a fire while they were playing or something.
Yep.
I remember I spoke to every member of the band except Ollie Sykes.
He's a very quiet dude. I've met him before as well. He's very reserved. But I saw them on this. I think it was the Sempiternal tour.
Yep.
Where they toured with. It was with Of Mice and Men and Crossfaith.
Would have been kind of cool.
Crossfaith blew every band off the stage.
Really?
That band is sick.
Even better than Bring Me the Horizon.
Yeah, Bring Me
good
were
live.
good.
Yeah.
But Crossfaith, man, that band is insane. Like anything from Japan is insane. But man, what a band. That was so good.
I listened to their last album a few weeks ago just because I didn't hear it when it came out. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But yeah, that's a cool event if you want to go back and relive it. Takeover Respect. Watch it for that epic promo video.
And just that match in general, because that was the match when Bayley got Sasha to tap at 29 minutes and 59 seconds, and you're like, oh, she's not going to do it. But like, oh man, so good.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool. Do you hear that song and automatically think of that match too now?
Yeah, I do, and I think that's what, like, as we said with Brooksy with My Way, by Limp Bizkit, it's one of those things where if the promo package is done right to a certain song, you think of that straight away.
Yep. Do you think that's the benchmark so far for NXT then? That video package, that's the best one?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen them do one as good yet.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of good ones, but like the one they did for the I was going to say Cage Warfare, for War Games was pretty good because that was a long package as well. It was about 5-minute video package.
That was a good one.
So yeah, I enjoyed that. That was good.
Okay, well, if we keep going chronologically, we get to Takeover London.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, with Triple H being the papa of NXT, what other British band is he going to pick for a London
One of the
takeover?
greatest of all time. Ace of Spades, Motorhead. I have friends who don't listen to metal who know this song.
Yeah.
Like, it's just one of those songs where you know it straight away. And it was a strange choice when I heard it. I'm like, on the lead up to Takeover London, I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like, they've got some, obviously, like, they've got Triple H behind them. I'm like, that's pretty cool because they usually use like, because NXT is like the starting ground for people. They usually use like underground bands and like bands that need a little bit of a push. But it's Motorhead. Motorhead, they can do what they want. I don't really care. Whatever Motorhead's associated with it's sick.
Yeah, this was the one exception to that. Hey, we're all about new stuff. It was like, nah, it's Motorhead.
It's
We're
Motorhead.
in London.
But being in London, it kind of makes sense because they're like some of the fathers, like in that group are like the gods of British metal. So
for sure. And yeah, always nice to pay tribute to Lemmy as well.
Also, quick side note, Rocky Like a Hurricane Rana fun fact: 4 episodes, 4 mentions of Motorhead. Let's make it let's make this like our thing.
We will always.
We have
talk
mentioned
about
Motorhead every episode so far, and I'm gonna make sure we fit it in every episode.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and the main event for this one was Finn Balor and Samoa Joe. Finn Balor coming out as Jack the Ripper.
Oh man, that was a sick solo. Let's just like listen to this a little bit. But yeah, that main event was brilliant. Like that main event was like, because that was near the start of their their feud as well.
This was before the one in Orlando.
Yeah, super good.
Yep.
I remember getting up at like stupid o'clock to actually watch this live as well.
Did you?
It was at like 6 a.m. Melbourne time.
Yeah.
Because it was like daylight savings as well. It was so early in the morning. That's what you do when you're a uni student at the time.
Well, I was working in breakfast radio at the time, so it was perfect. I could finish my show and at like 9 o'clock start it and just watch it in the morning.
Perfect.
And, Motorhead's always going to wake you up.
Takeover, we're jumping forward quite a little bit now. Takeover the end. Now, this was like, they called it the end because it was like the end of like the first era of NXT, so to speak. Because all of their guys were moving up into the next stage and they were bringing forward a new bunch of wrestlers. So they went pretty hard with this one because so the main event was again with Samoa Joe versus Finn Balor, which was again a brilliant match. But like those two guys put on good matches, whatever they do. Like Samoa Joe's still one of the best. He's one of the best at the moment. I don't care what anyone says.
I feel like some people didn't like these matches. It was really weird.
Because it was too much of a mismatch of sizes?
I don't know. Yeah, there was like a weird vibe when Finn was champ because everyone loved him, but everyone was saying, oh, these matches are boring or whatever. I thought they told great stories, and especially with Joe, the style he wrestles. Yeah. I thought they were really good. They were hard-hitting.
Because you've got the quick, hard hitter, all the kicks of Finn Balor and like the Japanese style, whereas you've got the beat the shit out of you, just end your life from Samoa Joe. The way he's been wrestling for like the past, 15 years plus now. So in
particular, I actually thought their match in Orlando was really cool. The one where Joe got busted open
on the first move of the match.
Yeah. It gave the match a real sense of urgency.
I feel like it was the best way. It was also the best way to follow up the match before, which was Nakamura versus Sami Zayn.
Otherwise, how do you live up to
that? Just bust yourself open on the first minute of the match.
Yeah, a good bit of happenstance or maybe a plan that they kept a secret. Who knows?
With Takeover the End, there was about 3 or 4 like songs they used for the soundtrack. We're going to touch on 2 of them because they're pretty great songs in my opinion. And one of them was Paranoia by A Day to Remember. Now, see, I've been a fan of A Day to Remember for, 9 years now. Like, I went to, like, the first time they ever came to Australia was with Parkway Drive.
Okay.
So that was in 2008. I was 13 years old. My first ever gig as well.
Nice.
So they just brought out their cover of Since You've Been Gone by Kelly Clarkson. That was taking the scene world by storm. And yeah, like seeing them like just go from like strength to strength and like, being featured on WWE was really cool. Because this was just after they actually released the single too. Yeah.
I'll admit I wasn't a fan of A Day to Remember at all. I was like, nah, not listening to it. They've got too much of that pop punk element. But then I saw this on NXT TV for the promo package.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, this song sounds kind of cool.
Bit of a fun fact. I've actually taken photos of them playing this song. So when I took photos of A Day to Remember in 2016, this was the second song of their set list. So I've actually taken photos of this song, which is kind of cool.
There you go. Nice.
Bit of a digital beard fun fact for you.
Tie it all back in. And I went back through their catalogue when I heard this. I was like, okay, maybe there's something else to them. Then I listened to Common Courtesy. Yeah. I had heard it's a great album. Matt Heafy from Trivium called it one of his favourite albums of that year. And I was like, I don't get it. And then I listened to it and I'm like, okay. So they're not metalcore specifically. They're like metal and punk.
Yeah.
They're but they keep it separate throughout the track list, which I actually do find interesting. That album is really long. Like, there's a lot of tracks on it.
A lot of the albums are really long. See, my favorite Day to Remember album is Homesick. Like, that album is...
Yeah, that's good too.
That's, like, in my opinion, like, the perfect mix of what they're doing. Yeah. Plus, it came out of the time where I think it was like 2009 or 10. I just was obsessed with that band.
You're just ready for it.
But a lot of the songs on that album, and then like the one after that, they kind of like went away from that album a little bit from like that sound.
Yep.
But then like the album after that, which was like the Common Courtesy like era, where like they went back to it and they like polished it and made it sound so much better.
Yeah, and like for anyone who's strictly a metal fan, they're worth listening to for those songs. Like on the new album, Bad Vibrations, you've got songs like Paranoia,
which
Bad
this song
Vibrations,
off,
and a lot of just straight up metal stuff. That's good.
Yeah.
As dumb as a name as Bad Vibrations is.
It's a shit name. I really... when they announced it, I'm like... Because I messaged my brother, I'm like, oh, I don't remember going to announce a new album. And they announced it, I'm like, oh, dude, it's the shittest album name I've ever heard.
That almost made me not want to get deeper into the band. I'm like, I like this song. Yeah. What's the album called? No. It's almost too cheesy, but no, they're pretty cool. Using that song for that match as well worked because Samoa Joe was, crazy at the time.
Yeah.
Really stalking Finn Balor. Like, he was starting to get paranoid. Was he ever going to win the title? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good promo package. Check that one out too.
And then also on that takeover, a band that I'm not even ashamed of, like, I'm not even a secret fan of this band. Baby Metal with their song Karate. This song, like, it was super funny. The first time, like, when Baby Metal were like an internet thing, I'm like, oh yeah, it's cool. It's just like a funny little gimmick. But then you listen to their stuff, man, it's catchy. And that's the thing. And that's the thing with K-pop or J-pop anyway. Like the pop side of like Japanese music, it's so catchy.
Yeah, and for anyone who doesn't know who Baby Metal is, if they're just hearing this, they're probably thinking, it's just a metal band funded by a female. But it goes further than that because the image is, like you said, sort of K-pop, J-pop type thing.
There's 3 Japanese like schoolgirls. They're like under 18 or even like just touch 18, but they're fronting a metal band of super, like they're heavy as well.
Yeah. It's a really weird package. Everyone is sort of divided about them, whether it's, cool or not. I heard they're amazing live.
Yeah, I'd love to see them. I think they'd be brilliant live. It'd be an experience. Because have you heard of Lady Beard?
Yes.
So Lady Beard he's an Australian wrestler.
Oh.
He's moved over to Japan and he's pretty much does this, but he dresses up as they dress up in like the schoolgirl outfit. Like me, big long hair, big beard. It just does like death metal screams over the top of it. It's incredible. So check out Lady Beard. It's amazing. He's fantastic.
There you go. Recommendations. Lady Beard, Baby Metal.
Anything to do with Japan, really.
So
Japanese wrestling. Anything.
Yeah. And then we move on to Takeover Toronto. This was a cool event. Nakamura and Joe, number 2.
Yep.
They wrestled in Brooklyn. We're skipping over that Takeover Brooklyn because we looked at the track list.
And we didn't like it.
It was
We're like,
terrible.
no, it's not really what I'd listen to.
Just
But
for the completists who are
But
like,
Takeover
"Let's skip it."
Toronto, man, that's music I listen to. Like, we have got I have some great stories about these bands too. Like, so the first song that we will play for you is Australian Legends. Like, and again, like, this is the first time any Australian artist has been featured on WWE.
Mm-hmm.
Goddamn Parkway Drive. I won't lie, I didn't like this album. I really don't like this album.
Is from Aya?
This is from Aya. Like,
didn't love
it's
it.
like when the first time they released a single, everyone was like, it's just like Bon Jovi core. Which
Yeah, and see, that's the difference though. It's a hard balance to say when a band is getting pop sounding. Because to me, Parkway Drive overstepped the mark with this album. It sounded contrived.
it sounded like it was like record label controlled.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, give us money. Whereas Bring Me the Horizon, I think, That's the Spirit, felt a bit more organic. It's hard to do. It's hard to pull off.
Yeah.
This sounds cheesy.
It does. Look, seeing them live, because I saw them live last year after they released this album, and it makes sense. Like, it's cool, and it's very much alive. And I've been saying this a lot recently with bands like Fall Out Boy and this like Parkway Drive album. Bands are releasing are writing music for a live setting and not for the recording.
Yeah, it
Or
works better
for
in
an
that
event. So that's why it kind of worked well being on as like the soundtrack for Takeover Toronto.
Yeah, totally. Even if you don't love the song in full, that in a promo video with 2 dudes punching each other works.
It works absolutely. And I guess similar to, and like they used the next song, which was hated by Beartooth. They used that for the main event because, well, the song's talking about being hated. So I guess it's kind of like the vibe they were going for. Beartooth, a band that a lot of my friends love Beartooth, and they're a really good band live. So they came from a couple of members from a band called Attack Attack.
Mm-hmm.
Moved to become Beartooth once Attack Attack broke up, and this is more of like a punk a punk vibe, this song, because a lot of the other stuff's quite heavy.
Yep.
On the heavier side. Strange dudes to interview, because I've interviewed them as myself, and really quiet, and they don't really give you much at all, which is not what you want being an interviewer, you knowing yourself. But yeah, again, I liked this song, like as a song for, especially with this chorus. Like I liked this song as a hype song, because obviously that's what like every song that is a soundtrack song is supposed to do. It's supposed to hype you up for an event. So I feel like it does it serves its purpose.
Still does the job.
Yeah.
And again, you know, a lot of these bands we're talking about, they would never have been chosen for shows on the main roster.
No.
You know, when WrestleMania is still getting their theme song done by Pitbull
And Flow Rider.
Flow Rider, it is nice to see that we're getting this weird variety of a band like Beartooth or even Parkway Drive or Baby Metal. Like,
Yeah.
that's a great playlist on any metal show.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, or like what a lineup this would be if it was a festival.
Yeah.
So we're really seeing a change as we go through time here, you know, through the takeovers. And again, Nakamura versus Joe, the same with Joe and Finn. These matches are underrated.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, I know Nakamura's sort of been questionable on the main roster.
But his run on NXT was still pretty good. It was close. Look, nothing's ever going to be close to his Japan runs because they were just flawless.
Yeah.
Because he could do what he could do. Because obviously, because like the WWE like dialed it back a little bit.
Yeah.
And so he can't do as much as what he did against like Tanahashi and Okada and AJ Styles over in Japan.
Yeah. But I'll argue that, like, in terms of just storytelling and main event style matches, Nakamura's matches with Joe, Finn, Aries,
Bobby Roode,
Sami Zayn, and Bobby Roode, like those big main event programs he had, were all great.
Yeah, his match with Austin Aries was so underrated.
I remember after that match thinking this was great, and then the response online was, it was boring. It didn't live up to my expectations. I was like, what? That was great. Yeah, I don't know. And him and Joe as well was an old school.
That was a brawl.
All about the strikes, all about the brawls, and the story. It was really good.
And it was the same as their match at the Melbourne NXT show with the cage match.
I like that match.
That was Nakamura's first cage match ever.
Huh. It was good.
Well, see, because Japan don't really do much gimmick matches.
No, yeah.
So when it came to that, like, and to be there in the audience was sick for that too. So
it felt like a fight in a cage, which is what the match should have been. Yeah. I know they did a weird edit of it when they put it on the network.
Yeah, I did see
it down.
Yeah, they watered it down a little bit,
and it sort of missed out on parts in the middle. But anyway, again, go back and revisit these matches, not just for the music, but there's some good stuff here. Yeah,
and like, well, you're touching on like the playlist that we're pretty much like playing at the moment is like good for a festival. NXT are on Download Festival every year in England.
Well, that's true. That's one of the other weird links to NXT and metal.
Yeah,
that's been a thing for the past few years.
Yeah, like it's part of the NXT loop through England. They play the Download Festival for 3 days, which I think is really cool.
For people like us, it's perfect.
Yeah, and like they play because I was talking to. I'm name dropping. Talking to Trent Seven about it when he was out here the other.
Just a casual name drop. Having a convo with Trent Seven.
Yeah. So yeah, when he was, I asked him about it. I'm like, how was he? He's like, we were in front of like 1,100 people, like in the tent, and then more outside every day.
Awesome.
So you're performing in front of like 2,000 people for 3 days.
That's so cool, man. If you're at a festival and you see some matches going on, I'd stumble over.
I'd take a break from bands, especially with like what the bands that were playing at like Download. They'd be like wrestling Download because there was some killer bands at Download this year. So
shame we're not getting NXT at our Download.
Yeah, but there's a bit of a shame about that Download in general.
Maybe next year when it grows to a bigger 2-day thing or something.
Yeah, I reckon. I feel like it's definitely the market for it, especially in Australia being so hot with indie wrestling right now.
Yeah, especially Melbourne in particular. If there's any city you're going to do it in, it's Melbourne in terms of the music and the wrestling.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, this is the place for it.
Yeah.
Triple H, if you're listening, bring NXT.
Yeah, man. Just if Trips are just casually listening to our little podcast. But yeah, like we'll take a tiny little break from our rundown of the glorious NXT takeovers and their playlist. The CFOs, as we touched on before, those guys are they write all the songs now for NXT. And I found an interview with them in the Metal Injection website. The two guys behind CFOs are called Mike Lurie and John Alacastro. So they're the two guys that like write all the stuff and do all the composing. And they talk about in this interview their favorite metal bands, which I think is very interesting because when you listen to the bands that they name off, you're like, okay, now I get where they're going with their. So Mike, his favorite bands are like Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath. So there's a little bit of like the old school metal and old school like
classic rock.
But then he's like, when I was in my teens, I gravitated towards Deftones, Rage Against the Machine, Nine Inch Nails, and Tool. So the more industrial kind of and like nu metal aspect of
that style of the 90s,
but not the generic nu metal that Jim Johnston was writing and like that like they used from like the Limp Bizkit stuff. It's more like the underground and more like you
don't want to say intellectual side of nu metal.
Yeah. And then John, the other guy, he was like Lamb of God, Unearth, As I Lay Dying, Within the Ruins, Meshuggah, Circle of Contempt, Misery Signals, Killswitch Engage. Then you listen to like the Seth Rollins stuff and you're like, oh shit, like, yeah, he's not lying. And then you look at at stuff like the Freak, which is a newcomer, Lars Sullivan. His entrance song, which is this awesome. Now, the first time I heard it was the other week on the War Games pay-per-view.
Yep.
When he had his match against Cassius Ohno. And you listen to it and it's like, it sounds like early Metallica, which we think's quite funny because his name's Lars.
It's got to be on purpose. It is not a coincidence, I don't think.
But then when you like hear that they've listed off bands like As I Lay Dying, Lamb of God, there's a lot of Lamb of God influence in that song, in my opinion.
Oh, that's true. Yep. Big riffs.
Yeah. Lots of spaced out riffs as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lars Sullivan. He's a
He's a big dude.
Cool.
Yeah.
Scary guy.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to bump into him in a dark alley. And then you got stuff like Heavy Machinery, who are a new tag team on NXT, which I think they're good.
Those guys are good.
Again, just two big dudes that will just destroy you. It's that old school like an older metal vibe. With awesome,
I like that.
again, sweeping guitars over the top.
Yeah, it takes a few seconds to get going, but these bits are pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah, it's getting more epic now. This is
Yeah,
cool.
as I said before, it does sound like a bit like a Shadows Fall like vibe.
Yeah,
Because Shadows Fall, like they were like one of the first, like in the mid-2000s, that band that really had like the heavy music and then like the really like cranking lead guitar with all the sweeps and the taps and all the big soaring like counter melodies to the vocal.
Yep.
And I feel like if this had vocals, it'd be that kind of vibe.
Well, let's get them to do it. What are Shadows Fall doing?
Nothing.
Yeah. Does that guy still have those massive dreads?
The ones that goes down to his heels?
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
Wow. Amazing.
Now back on track to our main focus, which was looking at our awesome, the awesome soundtracks to NXT. Now, Takeover Chicago, which I think was probably the best takeover of this year. For people who forgot, the actual the theme song was Judas by Fozzy because they just released it. I don't mind the actual album itself isn't too bad.
No, it's not. Here it is, Judas. I'm almost sick of this song just because on Talk Is Jericho plays the song.
Yeah, he played it for like 7 weeks, and I'm like, dude, stop. Please stop.
I know it's your show, and you would
I
play
just
your own
skipped the
song.
first
Yeah,
10
yeah.
minutes. I'm like, oh, we're good.
When it's like, hey man, this is our biggest song. It's millions of views on YouTube. It's like, oh, don't
Skip. But yeah. So the main event of Takeover Chicago, which I feel like had the most anticipated heel turn in the most recent memory.
So good, so brilliantly done.
The main event was the NXT tag title match of Authors of Pain versus
DIY,
which was Ciampa and Gargano
in a ladder match.
Had that ridiculous spot near the end of the match where they both did the flips off the ladder onto the Authors of Pain.
Looked like Ciampa could have died on that one.
I think he may have.
We haven't seen him since.
No, we haven't. But yeah, and then obviously we had that incredible heels in there where fucking WWE tricked us. They put up the little copyright stamp in the corner, which is, hey, show's over. No, he just gets then Gargano gets thrown through the LED board, as they say on the TV.
For all that we can criticize WWE for sometimes, of saying, ooh, they could have done this better, they could have done that better.
They did this perfectly.
It's absolutely brilliant. You cannot fault that.
Yeah.
And also tying the music back into the wrestling, you can't tell me it was a coincidence that the song was called Judas.
Yeah.
And it led to the turn in the main event.
Moving on, we're bringing our favorite segment back. We're doing another live review, another live performance review. Probably my favorite live performance from this year, mainly because I'm biased, and this album featured in my absolute best albums of this year. Code Orange, formerly Code Orange Kids. Code Orange, they had one of the theme songs to Takeover Brooklyn 3, which was Bleeding the Blur. That actually opened the show.
Yeah, they did this in a really cool way. Instead of opening an event... Instead of opening a show with the pre-recorded promo package, they got to open it.
And then they had the promo package run over the top of it.
In Brooklyn, too. Like, this is the big NXT show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this was a really cool way of doing it. They've only ever done this a few times where they cut between the live performance and the promo video. And I love how they built a little bit of a mosh pit too, right in front of the stage.
Yeah, it was a lot different to when they had a Limp Bizkit play and there was people just jumping up on the aisleway.
yeah. This felt more like, a mini gig in the crowd.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know her name, but the
female guitarist of Code Orange
who does the vocals in this.
Yeah.
I like this. She doesn't do vocals on most of their songs. So if you haven't heard the band, this isn't what they normally sound like.
No, so a little bit of a thing. Like, I saw Code Orange play in 2015. They played the Reverence Hotel in Footscray.
Wow.
Still the most violent show I've been to in my entire life. Like, actually terrified me a little bit. Because if you've been to the Reverence, it only holds about 300 people. So...
But yeah, this song is definitely a lot more laid back compared to their other stuff.
Yeah, but they overlay all the champions and all the lead up to Takeover Brooklyn over the top of a live performance, which, as I said before, it's so cool. It's so different as well.
Yeah, it gets you amped in a different way because you're like, yeah, fuck yeah, you got people moshing, you've got the band going off. This was a good takeover too. You had the debut of what would become Undisputed Era.
Yeah.
They all debuted here.
That was a surprise as well, yeah.
Yep. Big Drew McIntyre became the champ.
Yes, he did. And so, yeah, Reba Myers is her name.
I like it. She's just wearing a stripy shirt. She looks like she's been transported from 1992.
Absolutely. The thing is with Code Orange, like, their main vocalist is usually the drummer.
Mm.
And they have 3 guitars and a bass, and so they're a 5-piece. But they're so unorthodox in the way they've presented themselves.
Yep.
But yeah, this is... Yeah, because when they announced that they were playing at Takeover, I didn't think they were going to open the show. And then because I remember I was getting ready for work, I'm like, oh shit, they're actually playing live like right now, which I think is super cool.
And again, just to go back on the point of NXT taking chances, it's an awesome performance. They are really good live, but normally WWE isn't putting a band like that on one of their shows to play.
Yeah.
We've seen performances in the past, as we've mentioned. We're going to take a look at a lot more as we go too. But we've discussed Limp Bizkit. There's other bands like, Motley Crue have played, these big sort of bands, Kid Rock.
Yeah.
But not a sort of band that's still on the verge of sort of being underground, sort of being, the next big thing in the hard scene. To let them play on the Takeover, that's a big step for the WWE.
Absolutely, man.
So Code Orange weren't done there.
No, they weren't.
Back for a second go-around. So Aleister Black versus Hideo Itami. Aleister Black got Code Orange to do the instrumental part of his song. The lead singer from Incendiary, who does the vocals, was there live with him. So it's a mini supergroup for this one.
Yeah, and man, this performance went off. Like, you can actually hear the crowd just lose their mind for it as well, because it was so cool. Aleister Black, much like the Triple H performance, the Triple H entrance at WrestleMania 22, comes out from under the stage, joins the band on the stage, which I think adds a little bit more of like a connection going, like each other, like acknowledging each other's art.
Yeah, that's true. And I feel like for a guy like Aleister Black, it makes a lot of sense too. It doesn't feel like, oh, you're just shoehorning him in.
Everyone knows, like, he's a metal guy. Like, he's the one who actually introduced WWE to Code Orange. Like, that's how they got the
relationship going. Like, they're super heavy. They're like traditional hardcore.
Yeah, their new album is brilliant.
It's really good.
Yeah.
And they're from New York. So what a cool thing to have this New York hardcore band playing this massive show with this dude who is like the embodiment of metal now.
Yeah, I feel like, in the early 2000s, it was like the metal embodiment in WWE was Triple H, just because he had Motorhead behind him.
Yep.
Aleister Black is far beyond that now. Like, he is the dude. He's literally covered in tattoos. He's got the metal haircut, has the music, has the black leather studded jacket.
Oh, and he's not playing around. Follow him on Instagram, as we've said before. Nothing but like black metal and death metal recommendations that he makes.
And his Spotify playlists too.
Yeah, and it's where we're at now. They didn't get some cheesy band or their in-house Jim Johnston bullshit for him to do like a fake version of what it would sound like.
Yeah.
No disrespect. Jim Johnston's written some of the best, wrestling themes ever.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do this...
You do it properly.
Let's do it properly now. We've got Incendiary. When it was played live, it was Code Orange. Aleister Black is legit. And, hey, we started this show talking about Seth Rollins kicking off that NXT era in terms of the music and the presentation.
Yeah.
And we bring it to the modern times now with Aleister Black.
The crossover is so deep that people don't, like, before people realize it. Then when NXT go, hey, we're going to have like heavy metal and like hardcore and metalcore as pretty much as our music. It just goes to show that like it's more than people think it is, and it's not just like you and me like grasping at straws just to do a podcast about it. Like, it's fucking there. It's like right in front of us.
And the other thing is, we've left out plenty of bands who were used too. Like, there was still Baroness, Turnstile, all these other bands that we don't have time to go through them all. We wanted sort of this to be an overview of the NXT heavy metal relationship and how it's influenced things going forward.
Yep.
And it feels legit now. It's not like, because when people used to have that perception of wrestling and the cheesy type of music that it would be,
and the cheesy costumes that they had, like the tassels and the tight little shorts. But no, you got like guys like Tommy End who are like covered in tattoos, and they have like the big leather jackets, and like Authors of Pain. They walk out to pretty much like an old school like North Lane Gent song.
Exactly.
And then these big dudes like just in like military gear that just beat the crap out of you.
Yeah, and I feel like, I've mentioned it already. I don't want to just kick them while they're down. But there was that music like 7 to 8 years ago that everyone had. Again, your Dolph Ziggler's, Miz's, that really cheesy, outdated style of hard rock.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was associated with the WWE big time because that's all they were leaning on.
Yeah.
And now it's like, no, we can do this properly in the same way that they're hiring performers with years of experience who are legit. They're also relying on bands who are legit, and credit goes to CFO. We are going to have to hunt them down for a chat one day.
It'd be awesome to chat to them. Like, a little bit of a side note, I feel like Dolph Ziggler needs a new theme, and Dolph Ziggler being the glam guy, he could use so much cool shit.
And that's the other thing that sucks about a guy like Dolph Ziggler. You know what he really likes. He wears it literally on his sleeves or his sleeveless vest.
Yeah.
He's had the Motley Crue, the Megadeth patches, Poison.
Van Halen.
Give him
something, man. I'd love Dolph Ziggler already more than I already goddamn do. Like,
yeah, I would like him more if he came out to Kickstart My Heart or some cool shit like that.
But being a heel, he could come out to like a Wasp song. That'd be sick.
That would be
Maybe
good.
not Fuck Like a Beast, which
Why not? Let's do it. It's yeah. We're going to wrap things up there.
Yeah.
Check out Takeover Brooklyn again. Those 2 performances from Code Orange are very good. We hope this has inspired you to go back and relive the awesome music of NXT.
Yeah, and like if you're interested, like by now we'll have a couple playlists up on a Spotify, and we'll share them on our Facebook page. Like so with the Adam Brooks episode, we've recently put up just a whole bunch of a playlist of Limp Bizkit and some new metal and some wrestling themes and stuff like that. So every episode we put up, we're gonna have a correlating playlist on Spotify just to spice it up a bit, so we can you can listen to more than just like the few seconds of song we give you.
Yeah, that's right. So check that one out. I would be proud to listen to that playlist at any time.
Damn straight.
There we go. We're going to wrap things up. We'll catch you next time.
Next time when we rock you like a hurricane rider.